My name is Jin Choi, and I'm the founder of Money Geek, and welcome to the 7th episode of the short course on investments. And today, we're going to talk about something that a lot of Canadians care about, and that's real estate. But before we begin, I just want to clarify something because this can be a sensitive topic for some people. So in this video, we're going to look at real estate as an investment and nothing more. And I get that people buy houses for different reasons, and investment is just one of them. So what I'm about to say does not constitute me saying that you should buy or not buy a house. So with that in mind, let's begin. First, let's talk about how much housing prices have appreciated over the years. So to do that, we use indices, just like we have done with stocks and bonds. So in the US, the most frequently cited housing price index is called the Case-Shiller House Price Index. And in Canada, there are several, including the Teranet National Bank House Price Index. Now, you should know that people take a lot of care so that these indices are very reliable. For instance, let's say that someone bought a house for $200,000. And let's say that this person put in $60,000 worth of renovations into the house. Maybe this comes in the form of a new room or whatever else. And let's say that this person, the year after, sold a house for $260,000. Then even though that house price appreciated by $60,000, the index wouldn't treat it as such. From the index point of view, the house price would have appreciated by 0%. Why? Because the owner of the house didn't actually gain anything. Anyways, these indices show that for the past 100 years, US housing prices have appreciated by around 3 percentage points per year. So that's roughly the rate of inflation. And in Canada, the results are very similar. Sure, there were times when house prices have appreciated much faster, such as it has in the past decade, but those periods were exception rather than the norm. So that's how much housing prices appreciate, but what about all that money saved on rent? Doesn't that make a house a better investment? And the short answer is yes, but not by as much as you think. First, let's calculate how much you can save on rent. Well, if you believe the IMF's numbers, then in many places in Canada, rent is around 3% of the value of the home, which means that if you have a $500,000 home, you might save around $15,000 a year on rent. But if you own a house, you also have to worry about maintenance costs. And maintenance costs estimates vary from study to study, but they generally fall between 1 and 2% per year. So let's take the median point and say that maintenance costs is about 1.5% per year of the value of the home. And lastly, if you own a house, then you also have to pay property taxes. And studies have shown that the average property tax costs around 1% per year of the value of the house in Canada. So let's add these three items together and see what we get. So we have the 3% per year saved on not having to pay rent, but we have to pay 1.5% per year on maintenance, and we also have to pay 1% per year on property taxes. So when we add up all these things together, we're left with 0.5% per year. So that's the extra cash flow benefit of owning a house. So let me summarize what all this means. This means that if you owned an average Canadian home outright, so if you owned an average Canadian home without any mortgage, then you would have seen your house price appreciate by around 3% per year, and you would have also enjoyed a cash flow of an extra 0.5% per year. So combined, you would have enjoyed an investment gain of about 3.5% per year historically. And at this point, I want to emphasize that this is the average rate of return. So some homes have been better investments, some homes have been worse investments, but on average, the average home has returned 3.5% per year. So that's how much houses have returned. So now let's talk about risk. Well, unfortunately, risk is very hard to measure for a single property, there just isn't that much data related to single homes like we have for stocks and bonds. But I have done a little bit of research in my PhD regarding this topic. So according to some of the studies that I've looked at, it looks like the standard deviation of a single property is around 10% per year. To put these numbers into perspective, this means that you can expect anywhere between negative 15% to plus 21% of a price difference in any given year for the value of your home. So with that in mind, let's compare these numbers against that of other investments. Over the past 100 years, short-term government bonds have returned around 5% per year, and it did so with much less risk than a house. So that means that anyone who invested in short-term government bonds did much better than someone who chose to buy a house as an investment instead. But there are other factors to consider as well. Unlike stocks and bonds, houses are actually pretty liquid, which means that it's not easy to buy and sell them. And buying and selling them is actually usually pretty pricey as well. But also, most people who buy homes end up being undiversified, which means that the homes that they buy end up being the dominant portion of their net worth. So this means that if the home prices go down, then their whole net worth goes down with the house. And this is further accentuated because most people borrow money to buy their homes. So they take out a mortgage to buy a home. And so let's say that someone bought a home with just 5% down. Then all it takes for that person's investment to get wiped out is a 5% drop in the price of that home. So if you had bought stocks without borrowing any money, the maximum that you can lose is how much you put into those stocks. But if you buy a home with a mortgage, then you can lose a lot more than the money that you put in for your down payment. So for these reasons, I'm generally not a fan of buying a home as an investment. Again, I'm not saying that you should never buy a home. People buy homes for different reasons. I get that. I'm just saying that if you're looking to buy a home as an investment that will provide you with savings into retirement, then I will suggest that there are actually better alternatives out there. And that's what I had to say about real estate as an investment. I gave a lot of numbers in this video, so let me summarize what we talked about so far. Historically, house prices have appreciated by around 3% per year over the long run. And if you add up the money saved on rent, what you have to pay in maintenance costs and property taxes, then you get an extra benefit of around 0.5% per year for owning a house. Combined, houses have returned around 3.5% per year, which isn't very high if you compare them against that of bonds and stocks. On the other hand, individual homes have around 10% standard deviation per year, which is around medium risk. But also, homes are illiquid, and people who buy them usually become undiversified. So for these reasons, I'm generally not a fan of buying individual homes as an investment. And lastly, this analysis doesn't apply to all properties. Some properties are good investments. It's just that they're the exception rather than the norm. And that's it for today's episode. As per usual, if you like this video, please consider sharing it. In the next episode, we'll talk about commodities such as gold. So thank you very much for watching, and I hope you have a great day.